It's surprisingly hard to make romantic relationships work in shows that are not about romance. Now, you would not think it would be too difficult. Put two characters together, give them some cute scenes where they would like to admit their affections but don't. Make it so that this relationship matters for each partner. Make it so that each partner has something they're getting out of it. And make it so that each partner has something to offer to the other so they can rely on each other in difficult times. Have them admit their feelings and have their relationship grow and blossom as they learn about each other and empathize with each other's cares and hopes and longings. But apparently it's quite difficult, as a significant number of shows, including shows that have no problem handling other kinds of relationships, cannot make romantic relationships work without relying on cliches. Rayllum is one of the few exceptions to that rule. They care about each other. They want each other to succeed. They help each other out, and you, the viewer, want them to succeed too because of all that. This may not sound like much, but if it's not, then why does Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the all-time great fantasy shows, have such a hard time creating a convincing romantic pairing? I'm not saying all the pairings on Avatar are terrible, but none of them are nearly as convincing as Rayllum. Now, this would be fine if the intention was to create a more dysfunctional and unbalanced series of pairings, but that's not really what they're going for. If they admitted that these pairings weren't perfect, it might be more interesting to watch, but these pairings are supposed to be completely beautiful and lovely. Not saying there's not supposed to be any problems, but these problems are supposed to be nothing compared to the love these characters have for one another, and I just don't really buy it. The show wants me to care, and I just don't. I'm more apathetic than anything. Now you could say to me, Josh, does this really matter that much? The show is incisive about the effects of war and trauma, and how it feels to grow up in a world that has only known conflict. Do its failings in depicting interesting romantic relationships matter that much? And, well, no, not really. But the fact that Avatar is so adept at handling far more uncomfortable and thorny themes makes its inability to depict a simple romantic relationship that much more frustrating. The Dragon Prince provides a wonderful counterpoint. It's hard to get Aang and Katara and Zuko and Katara fans to agree on much of anything, but they both seem to love Rayllum. Even people who aren't drawn as inextricably to the belief that two characters in the show should be together seem to like Rayla and Callum as a couple. They're supportive, they joke around, and they complement each other very well. He's a mage, reserved, awkward, relatively open about his feelings. Rayla is his complete opposite. She's skilled in hand-to-hand combat, she's outgoing, she's more secretly reserved and doesn't like to talk about her emotions and what she's going through. Though she is as awkward as Callum, she hides her awkwardness better because she is terribly, desperately afraid of being judged. Because of how her parents were considered traitors, she has spent her life dealing with the suspicions of others. She has to prove she's loyal to people who trust her because of what her parents did. It's not even her own mistakes that she needs to compensate for, it's those of a prior generation. How can you do that? It seems like an impossible predicament. No matter what she does, there are always people who don't trust her because of who her parents are. It doesn't help that she has sympathy for humans, a lot more so than most elves. She doesn't buy into the line that humans are innately destructive and evil. That's not to say she's completely free of these prejudices, but they don't afflict her like they afflict other elves. What are you supposed to do when you want more than anything to prove yourself, but what you need to do to prove yourself is something that you do not consider moral? It's basically the Zuko's conundrum. Over the course of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Zuko has Iroh to steer him down the right path, but Rayla has no one. True, she does have Runan and Athari to help her, and they are not bad parental figures, but they are incapable of understanding the torment stirring in her soul. Only Callum can provide the kind of support that will patch the fissure tearing her apart. He helps her become strong enough that she does not need the approval of elf kind. She knows she is doing what is right, and he knows he will stand by her. Callum loves being around her. When he's with her, he's a lot more than just a loser and a dork who lucked his way into being part of the royal family. As Sartre postulated, self-definition is not wholly an individual affair. We inevitably help others define themselves, and though this can be horrific, as Sartre demonstrates in his famous play set in Hell, No Exit, where people are trapped in a room without mirrors, where they can only see themselves through each other. They can only see themselves as the others see them. But despite this, it can also be liberating. Interactions we share with others can help us better understand who we are and who we want to be, and this is certainly the case with Rayla and Callum. Because of how Rayla sees Callum as someone brave and supportive and compassionate and honest, he is better able to see himself in that way. The relationship between these two is not icing added to the story, rather it derives from the story. The most major reason why a lot of the romantic scenes in Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra fall flat is that they derive from some hackneyed, preconceived notion of what romantic scenes are supposed to be, and so the actually interesting character drama stops, it just grinds to a halt so we can spend time stumbling over cliches that were passé 30 years ago in some middling romantic comedy. Obviously, Avatar and Korra are not the only two shows with this problem, but they are the shows where there is probably the greatest discrepancy between the quality of the rest of the show and the quality of the show when it's trying to do romantic relationships. In the middle of Season 3 of The Dragon Prince, when Rayllum finally happens, I breathed a sigh of deep relief the first time I saw that. The joy would come later, but what I felt first and most vividly was surprise and relief. Surprise because I did not think the pairing would happen so soon, and I thought that even if it did happen in Season 3, it would not occur until the season's end. I thought they would continue to tease us for the rest of the show, or at least for the rest of the season, but no. They instead acted instinctively on the feelings that had been building inside them all this time, just like real teenagers do. Now, obviously, the dichotomy of real equals good and honest, and unreal equaling shallow and insipid is a really reductive and silly dichotomy. But if the only reason you're diverging from what's realistic is so you can have characters act out parts in a vapid cliche, instead of acting how one would think they would behave considering how they've acted in the past, then yeah, it rings hollow. It's hollowing out characters just for the purpose of fitting a silly and vapid form. Rayllum is honest. Rayllum rings true. They're in love with each other because they've grown to care about each other. They've gotten to know each other. They've grown to depend on each other. Looking into their souls, they decide they want their relationship to transcend the platonic level, and it's believable, particularly as a transition from being a mere will they or won't they into an actual substantial relationship. Yeah, they kiss too frequently. So do most teenage couples, for that matter, and it's hard to be mad about Callum and Rayla when they have such joy in being in each other's presence. They love spending time together. When they're separated, you care about them as individuals, but you also care because you're invested in the relationship between them, both for its own sake and for how it functions as a neat symbol for the necessity of humans and elves to come together and form a better world without war, factionalism, and reaching toward peace. It's the opposite of the relationships Aang and Zuko end up in, which are not necessarily terrible, but have nothing really to do with the journeys these characters have been on for the last 3 seasons. Rayllum, however, ties the central themes and ideas of the Dragon Prince to this, the central pairing of the show, and it's really brilliant for that. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Dragon Prince. And look forward to Season 4, because we are going to get that 4th season. I'm ecstatic. I can't wait. I'm sure it's going to be at least as good as the previous seasons of the show. And I can't wait to see how they evolve all these character dynamics and narrative ideas and thematic concepts. It's really exciting. So thank you all again. Tune in soon for my next analysis. Adios, comrades.